How did a tiny team of just 3 individuals manage to create a hit on their first try? Let's unveil the secrets behind the success of Overcooked, the wildly popular couch co-op cooking simulator with over 10,000 positive reviews on Steam, and see what we can learn from examining their gameplay loops. To analyze Overcooked, we're going to categorize 3 types of game loops. We're going to start with the large loop, which we're going to call the story loop, followed by a mid-sized loop, which we're going to call the core loop. And we're going to finish with a small loop, which we're going to call the input loop. In Overcooked, the story game loop consists of navigating a somewhat interactive world, selecting and beating stages to earn stars, and unlocking new stages with those stars. This loop repeats itself with a sprinkle of storytelling here and there until the game's completed. This loop is clearly not the main focus of the game, and it doesn't contribute significantly to the overall fun factor, but rightfully so. It serves as a means to advance the story and unlock new stages only. As a game designer, it's important to find the right balance and prioritize the game loops that are important to your overall game experience. The core game loop in Overcooked is a central mechanic of the game. When you start a level, you'll receive orders for food, which you must gather the proper ingredients for, assemble according to the order, and serve to customers. This is where the game starts to become fun and where most of the play will occur. The challenge and excitement in this core loop comes from the limited amount of time that you have to complete each order. There's even a visual timer under each order that changes color as your timer is running out, and in the final seconds, the icon will even start to shake to add to this tension. If you fail to deliver an order on time, you won't be paid for it, which can make it harder to beat the level or achieve a high score. To make an order, you must navigate through the kitchen and gather the necessary ingredients. You then have to prep, cook, and plate the food before serving it. This list of tasks can quickly become overwhelming as you have to juggle multiple orders at once and try to be as efficient as possible to get them all out on time without losing your head. Overcooked has done a really good job at balancing the numbers of tasks you have to manage with the amount of time that you have to complete them, and this is what maximizes the fun factor. When you do manage to get the order out on time, you'll be paid for it. If you're particularly fast, you'll even receive a tip, which can help you beat your high score and earn more stars to unlock later levels. As the game progresses, the core loop becomes more difficult with more creative and entertaining obstacles in each level and increasingly complex orders. The developers have done a great job at increasing the difficulty level gradually as the players get used to the gameplay. Keep the game loop as engaging as possible throughout the entire game. The input loop, or the small loop in Overcooked, consists of the repetitive actions the player must perform in order to complete the game's core loop. These actions include running around the kitchen, chopping vegetables, doing the dishes, among other things. While these tasks are not inherently enjoyable, they are essential for the core game loop to function properly. Ghost Town Game has done a really good job at making these actions as enjoyable as possible through simple and responsive controls. The developers have also added humorous and tense animation while performing these tasks, which enhances the overall fun of the game's core game loop. Adding more complexity to the input loop could distract from the core gameplay of Overcooked. As we can see, Overcooked is a well-designed game that excelled at balancing the amount of attention placed in these 3 categories of game loop. The core game loop, which is likely the aspect that developers spend the most time perfecting, involves managing orders and tasks under time pressure. This adds a level of excitement and challenge to the game, while the input loop helps to create a smooth and engaging gameplay experience. And finally, the story loop adds an additional layer of depth and immersion to the game. As a wild factor, the addition of co-op play and the ability to play locally, which is becoming rarer in modern games, makes Overcooked an especially enjoyable experience. Playing with a team adds yet another dimension to the already hectic gameplay, and is like trying to herd a bunch of stray cats with your best friend on your way back from a late night at the bar. It's hectic, it's chaotic, but it's also incredibly fun. Overall, the combination of the proper balance of attention placed on the 3 categories of game loop we've discussed and the wild factor of the local co-op play makes Overcooked a deliciously entertaining game, and is part of why it was so successful.